Hello, everybody, and welcome to this segment of HCAM Sports Talk. Tom Nappi here, and we are joined by Peter Thomas to talk some Hillers soccer. Peter, how are you today?
Doing good, Tom. Great to see you again. What an exciting start to the season it's been, huh?
Ah, it's been unbelievable. The Hiller girls, they are 3-0 to start off the season. A nice win against Norwood via a 7-0 shutout to start things off, and then you go into Dedham, and it was only a 1-0 game, but the Hillers very dominant in that game as they outshot Dedham 21-3. And then you come back home and you take on Holliston. It was a good battle to start things out, but then the Hiller scoring just got going and they were unstoppable. Maddie Recupero came up with the first couple goals in that game, and then you had Nicole Tedstone with a nice goal and Allison Green all in the first half. And then you had Tedstone strike again early in the second half. Colleran struck again as well a couple times in that second half. And Emily Prisco also got in on the action as well. So great start to the season for the Hiller girls. They are looking good. The boys team, they're very young this year. They're playing well, but they have some work to do, and we'll certainly talk about them a little bit too. But I want to start with this girls team. Peter, last year we got to see quite an unbelievable playoff run. They were the most dominant team in the TVL, which is very tough to do considering that the TVL is a very tough league to be dominant in. But this Hiller girls team, they're looking a lot like last year's team in many ways. They're looking like that dominant team once again. What are
It,
your thoughts so far?
yeah, it feels like they picked up where they left off. And I'll tell you, I didn't have that on my bingo card. I mean, I thought losing Georgie Clark, losing Joe DuPont, that there would be a little bit of a power outage up front. But it turns out that the midfield with Nina TZ, Maddie Recupero, Marin, when she drops to the midfield, like it's so good at just controlling the game. Um, that it just doesn't matter. I mean, like it doesn't matter. They're setting their forwards up. Their forwards are getting goals. Okay, so you just read off the list, but it typically starts with Maddie. Maddie opens her account in the game, and then from there on, the Hillers just roll. Going back to the Norwood game, 7-0. Maddie had a hat trick in that one. I'm just gonna nickname her the Matrix. Okay, Maddie is like it's like she's playing a video game out there. All right, she sees the game. It's like slow motion for her and real time for all of the rest of us mortals. Right? She moves the ball so well, controls it so well, sets up her team so well. I mean, I know you're gonna show a shot, a stat sheet there. She shot the ball, and how many times? 10 times is it, Tom? And yeah, 10 shots on target and 5 have gone in. 50% of the time she shoots, the ball goes into the goal. I mean, that's an incredible. She's 5 goals and 3 assists to start the season. I mean, that's a heck of a way to get the team going.
It really is, especially when you're the team leader on shots with 17, 10 have been on target, 5 have gone in, so a little under a third have gone in, but 10 on target, very impressive. And then how about Riley Colleran? And Coach Skiba has been putting Colleran and Recupero together on the left side of that offense, and they have just been dominant together. You got Colleran more towards the middle, Recupero on the outside, and those two coming up the field together, they are loaded with speed. They could burn by anybody, and when they're working together, they just find ways to get each other opportunities. And then of course you have Nicole Tedstone, who's had some great assists, or not assists, but some great passes and a couple of goals recently as well. So some of these new girls coming in as also they're kind of replacing what the loss of Georgie Clark was, and Brooke Burtwhistle, and they're very different than Georgie Clark and Brooke Burtwhistle, but they're very talented in their own ways. And I feel like that this team is probably even more of a faster team than last year's was. It seems like there's more speed out there this season.
Yeah, I mean Riley is very quick, and she's a freshman, let's just say. So if you're a Hiller soccer fan, you got a lot to look forward to in the next couple of years, because if she's this good at 15 years old, just imagine with a couple more years of coaching and development and growth, what she's going to be like. I mean, she could be at her pace. I know we love Georgie and we talked about it, and she's the leading scorer in Hiller soccer history, no doubt. But I could see Riley making a bid for that at the way she is so opportunistically scoring, right? I mean, she's a freshman and not starting, and she's the second leading scorer on the team. So that'll tell you where it's at. But Tom, it just kept going from there. Dedham, I will say the Dedham game, 1-0, kind of a boring game. You know, I mean, it was a lot of kickball. Seemed like the Hillers really couldn't get their footing there.
You know, the thing about that game, though, you're looking at that shooting stat. They outshot Dedham
Yeah,
21-3.
yeah.
That game was a lot more dominant than the scoreboard shows.
It really was. I mean, it should have been 10-0, right? But for some reason, the shots just weren't on target, or who knows what. But it doesn't really matter. They got the deal. They got the job done. Sometimes games are like that. You grind it out. But then to come home to Holliston, okay? So when we saw Holliston, you and I at the beginning of this game, what are we showing here? Are we showing the?
This is the stats from the Holliston game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when the first 15 minutes of that game, you and I were both like, "Oh my goodness, where is this going?" Because Holliston came out on fire. I mean, it was a slugfest, and I thought, "Ugh, we're in a bit of trouble here." But I don't know what happened. I mean, obviously Maddie scored first, okay, and I don't know if that took the wind out of their sails or if it was Holliston's fitness was a problem. I
Well,
don't know, but
Recupero scored at 22:30 left to go in the first half. There wasn't another goal until 8:14, where Recupero put it in again. So it was really towards the end of the first half, the sales kind of fell off for Holliston, and they just got burned by this Hiller team up and down the field. But up until that point, this was a neck and neck game. This
yeah,
Holliston team was hanging around, and there was a couple shots that Holliston took that should have went in. They
yeah.
had a couple of very unfortunate situations.
Well, Ayla made 4 saves. So that Holliston was held to just 5 shots on target, and one of them went in, which, by the way, I'm going to give him all the credit in the world. The goal that Holliston, either midfielder or defender, took from 25 yards out, upper V, that was world class. That goal was world class. All right. And, but look, the game ended 8-1.
She should credit me because I jinxed.
I was going to say, that's my next
Totally
line.
jinxed the
You
Hiller.
are responsible for that.
Yes.
Tell the fans why. Tell the fans why, Tom.
Fans, first of all, I apologize. And I apologize to the team, Coach Skiba. I was talking about how the Hillers haven't given up a goal yet.
Just before. You were like, oh, they're just running shutout
Literally right
shutout.
before. And then, of course, Holliston gets a free kick and they give up a goal. So it's
That
my
was hilarious.
fault. Announcer jinx. I completely apologize.
That was hilarious.
I'll try not to do that again.
But the possession, but the Hillers again. We talked about this on the pre-flight show, which was, the model is very simple. If you control the ball, the other team can't score. Okay, so possession, 58% in the Holliston game, and almost 59, and that's been true. It was 66% versus Norwood. It was 73% versus Dedham, and then it was almost 59% versus Holliston. So again, Hillers are controlling the ball. That's great. But the passing ratio, that is the one that was crazy. It's 65% averaged out, but the difference between the first 15 minutes of the first half and the first 15 minutes of the second half, in the first 15 minutes of the first half, it was only 51% that they actually completed passes. But in the second 15 minutes, it was 79%. So almost 80% of their passes in the first 15 minutes. That was quite a difference, quite an improvement.
And against Dedham, 86% pass success rate. That's been the key for this team. It's been ball handling. It's been ball distribution.
100%.
They're hitting their targets. They're spot on with their passing. And that's why they're having this success. That's why these teams are getting overwhelmed that are playing against them.
They're just chasing the Hillers around. And I know that, I know that preseason fitness is part of what qualifies you to be a varsity player. I mean, when they're doing tryouts, a lot of it is how fit are you? They do the beep test, they do all this stuff. And a lot of these girls are obviously an incredible fitness. They're playing all year round. They're club soccer players. But I don't know that other teams in the TVL have that same qualification. But I can tell you this, that with those kinds of passing ratios, um, you're gonna just have other teams chasing the ball around, and eventually they're gonna get tired. They're gonna run out of gas, and then you're gonna run the tables. And so I'm counting here 16 goals in, one given up. That's an incredible recipe for success.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just so impressive. And tonight they got a big battle against Westwood. Westwood is 2-1. It's under the lights. I think it's going to be a very fun atmosphere. You're going to get a lot of people coming out to watch that game, and if you're not planning to, you certainly should. You should watch this team. If you're a sports fan, you
Yeah.
want to see this team
Well,
play.
and my only concern about this is the complacency factor. This is what to watch tonight. Do the girls come out a little complacent against Westwood for the following reason? Westwood was defeated by Holliston 4-1. So
Right.
now that we just ran the table against Holliston, the girls might be thinking, I don't know. But Tom, Westwood has given us fits in the past.
They certainly have. They've been a tough team to deal with. And that's the thing about this team. I mean, there's a lot of youth on this team, and they have to be careful not to get complacent and to think that they're just going to come out and dominate every game. There's some tough teams in this league, and you're going to have some struggles. I know Ashland's a really good team. That's a matchup that I'm looking forward to. I think that's going to be a tough battle, and that's another team that always gives you a hard time. But this Westwood team, they have some good talent. And last season, you had a couple close games with them.
Mm-hmm.
The Hillers won in Westwood 3-1, and then they closed out the regular season with them, and that was a relatively close game. It was a
It
three to
was.
nothing win.
And
So it's always a battle with Westwood.
yeah, they've scored just here's the stats. They've scored 13 goals
Right.
already. We've scored 16. So, I mean, that's kind of even, right? They've shown that they can score in bunches. They beat Norwood 5-0. Okay, fine. I mean, Norwood's a bit of a pushover. They beat Ashland too, 4-0, and they lost to Holliston. But I don't know what happened. I'm going to guess that Holliston game was an anomaly for them, that something just didn't click or whatever. 13 goals, that's nothing to be trifled with. These girls will be putting pressure on the Hiller defense tonight. I predict that.
Oh, absolutely. And playing under the lights, it gives you that extra. It pumps you up, I'd say, even
Yep, I think they'll
more.
be charged. Absolutely.
And I'm sure there'll be a big crowd there. There'll be a lot of people probably from Westwood that are coming out to cheer on their team. So it's going to be a little bit different than those casual afternoon games. I think it's going to be a pretty intense atmosphere tonight.
Yeah, agreed.
Uh, so I think that's something to look out for as well, because that could pump a team up alone. And again, I mean, there hasn't been any games where you really dominated this Westwood team, and not that you have to. A win's a win. That's all that matters. But you can't get overconfident, I guess is my point.
Yep.
And Coach Skeeb is so great. I don't think this team will get overconfident.
No,
I'm not really worried about that.
you and I both know him. We know he's watched the film. We know he's told the girls, you know, look at this like a really good team, that they score a lot, but I do have supreme confidence in our defense. Our goalkeeping obviously is stellar. Ayla, Ella, Tyler, it doesn't matter who you put in. Our goalkeeping is stellar. And that's great. But our defense really is so stingy. Again, I was a little worried at the preseason. I said, without Juliana, are they going to be able to do this? But the fact of the matter is, they have not broken. They have not broken. They have not given up a goal from the run of play. They've allowed very few shots. They're just fast and possess the ball well, just like the midfielders. So I'm obviously bullish for the Hillers every time. I'm a homer, but I do feel that the facts are on my side in making a prediction. I predict 3-1 Hillers will win. I think Westwood's going to get a goal because they will. I mean, they're a good scoring team, but I think the Hillers will take care of it.
All right, I like that prediction. I think it'll be somewhere around there. I'll go 4-1 just to be different.
All right.
But if you look at the schedule too, very tough schedule coming up. Westwood tonight, September 12th, and then September 17th, you're at Ashland. And then a big one, Bishop Fien coming into town next Thursday. And
Which,
that's
by the
also,
way, don't get me on my soapbox, but you know that their coach was just suspended for the season, right?
I do not.
The, yeah, the Bishop Vian coach was for recruiting violations.
Ooh.
And so here's the thing about Bishop Vian, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of this other than to say I do not think they should be in the TVL because
Well, they're
every other
not. This
school
is
in
an
the
out of league game.
Okay, sorry, thank you. But they shouldn't be in the state playoffs, I guess is what I'm saying. The way it all works, where we end up playing them like they're an equal team, and we don't have the same opportunity to recruit the way they do. That to me seems lopsided, and that's an MIAA thing, but whatever. So Bishop Vian has their head coach has been booted out, so who knows what they're going to be like this year? But man, they've got so much talent because of the way they recruit. Who knows, right?
Yeah, and I've never been a fan of the recruiting schools being where the Hillers are in the playoff system. I think they should have their own, but we'll save that for another day. But I do like that Coach Skiba put them on the schedule because it's a tough challenge for this team,
For sure.
and it'll get you ready for those playoff games. You want games like this during the regular season. It's not going to affect the Hillers much in the standings if they happen to lose. Hopefully, they won't. Be nice if they're able to come out and win. But you want games like this. You
But it
want to be
seems like
playoff
those
ready.
two teams are on a collision course every year, doesn't it?
Yes.
Hillers, Bishop Feehan. Hillers,
Yep.
Bishop Feehan. And I mean, when you do your preseason on your media day, when you do your pre-flight with
They're
them,
all looking
what do the
forward to
girls
it.
always say? What's the one team you're looking forward to? What do they always say?
Yep, Bishop Fiat, absolutely.
Exactly.
You got your chance at revenge, and I'll tell you that state semis game, they almost won that,
I
and
mean, come on.
I really think if they played a
Such a
best out of
fluke.
if they played a best out of seven series, it probably would have won 7 games. The way they played that game, I think they gave Bishop Fiat all they could handle in that game. It was a 1-0 final. It was neck and
On
neck.
a fluky goal, on a fluky wind assisted goal.
Yeah, yep. So it won't surprise me if I'm sure the Hillers are they got that one marked on their calendar and they can't wait for it. It's going to be a fun one, and we'll have it live on HCAM, so you'll want to tune into that. With the last couple minutes we have, I do want to mention the boys. They are currently 1-2 on the season. Now, look, this boys team, they're a very young team. They lost a lot of seniors from last year. They had a rough loss against Dedham at home, which you saw on HCAM 2-0. Then they lost to a very good Holliston team who returned a lot of guys 4-0. They got Westwood on Friday, September 13th. They'll be at Westwood, and then Tuesday, September 17th, they'll be at home against Ashland. Now, this boys team, they're going to continue to get better throughout the season, and
Yeah.
I saw changes. I saw the team getting better within that Dedham game. They gave up 2 early goals in that one, and they're both kind of fluky goals. And as the game went on, they got better and better, and they didn't let Dedham get those breakaways and get a whole lot of shots for the second half of that game. And I think this team does have the talent. They're just very young. They have to
Yeah.
put it together. And Coach Sawyer is great. He knows how to bring these guys along. So I got confidence that this boys team, they're going to improve as the season goes on. And I think at the end, they'll be battling for a playoff spot for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like you mentioned, Tom, it's a rebuilding year for them. They lost a lot of seniors, particularly the production up front with Jack Iannelli. When you look at so they need to get more out of their forwards, but their forwards are young, and here's something that's very illustrative about that team and just where they are in their maturation is that they have 4 captains. One of them is a defender in Owen Champlin, and then 3 of them are midfielders. And typically, when you anoint captains, typically you'll anoint one from each line. You'll take a forward captain to mentor the younger guys. Typically, you'll take a midfielder and then maybe a defender or whatever, right? But they have 3 midfielders and 1 defender, which tells you that up top they're youthful still, right? And
Yep.
they need to develop that. And they just look, they've scored one goal in the season. They got shut out by Dedham. They got shut out by Holliston. They're just not getting enough production out of the front line. That's going to come in time with coaching, with development, and all of that. So look, that's just where the program's at right now. That's how high school sports work. People graduate.
Yeah,
So
exactly. You have those transition years, and the key is working through those
that's
transition
right.
years. But it usually leads to great things, especially in the recent past. It certainly has for this soccer program, this Hiller soccer program. When they have those young transition years, they typically have a couple of years of glory when those
That's right.
athletes are in their junior and senior year. So
You're making the ingredients for the cake right now.
exactly. So we'll keep following along with the boys team. I'm sure they're going to get better as the season goes on and rack up some wins. And of course, we'll keep you informed with this tremendous girls team. I think this season's going to be another special one for Hiller girls soccer. But that is going to wrap up this segment of HCAM Sports Talk. Peter, thanks again for joining us, and we'll do it again in the very near future.
Great to be with you, Tom.